us. Just finished up the third round, so pretty calm night. We sat there at pick 47, right, Mark? 47. Go with that. Had an offer there. Had an offer there to drop back and pick something up, but we're really excited to pick Will there. A guy we did a lot of work on. Been watching him for a couple of years. Played, in a great conference in the Big Ten. Went up against some really good receivers. Productive on the ball, and excited to what he can bring. And then went to 78 in the third round there, and kind of similar situation. Had an opportunity to drop back and pick up a later pick. But really another guy that we had done a lot of work on in Jordan Burch out of Oregon. Kind of a unique guy, big for an outside linebacker, size, length. Doesn't actually look like an outside linebacker. Looks more like an interior player, but has some unique athleticism and had a productive year this year at Oregon. So, didn't move around at all today, and excited to add two good players to the defense, and going tomorrow with three more picks. So it's kind of where we're at, and we'll turn you guys loose here. What do you got for us?
Obviously, with Will, there was a lot of talk about injuries and stuff. How did you go about making sure that you guys were comfortable with his situation?
Yeah, really did the same process we do with all the prospects. And, it's an extensive process. And, ended up good with Will and excited to get him going.
Not to say that you don't scout all positions and players, but with that being where a lot of your history is, what do you see from him as a player?
Yeah, I would say elite coverage instincts. Really like his ability to play the ball. He's long, he's a bigger guy. Very smart, very instinctive, tough. And then I like his ability that he can walk up and challenge people and then play off as well and see the quarterback. So played in multiple systems, and both of those systems were NFL-made systems under Wink and Jesse Minter there. And that was really cool talking to him about the differences of styles, of schemes and stuff. This guy's as smart as they come now. So really excited for him to come in here and compete.
He made it clear he was not happy that he had fallen as far as he did.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like that a guy has that, or would you prefer that he kind of gets over it?
Yeah, he'll get over it real quick, I think. I completely understand his emotions, but he'll quickly realize when he steps in the building it's not where you get drafted, it's what you do with it.
Could you detect that when you talked to him tonight, that he was a little bit upset about what had happened to him?
I could. Speaking of myself.
Yeah, and I think, he was just excited to he was also excited to find, get resolution and know where he was going. So, it was that balance, and I know we're going to get a very motivated Will to come in here and ready to compete and earn a spot.
How much did the possibility of losing him prevent you from moving back from 47?
Well, I think that's a consideration in every trade, So, I mean, you have a choice to make. You have a player that you like, so, you go ahead and put the pick in, or do you gamble? And if you drop back, you got to be comfortable losing them. And so, for us, we had a couple of good offers on the table, and it just we talked about it. It just wasn't worth the gamble. We wanted to add Will, and we're happy we did it.
Monti, back-to-back defensive players selected. Was that the plan going into the night, or was it just how the board shook up?
Yeah, really how the board shook out. We never gone into a draft saying we have to add this many offensive players or this many defensive players, and or this position over this position. And it just so happened that the first three picks, been defense. I mean, we'll see. Tomorrow could be three more defense, could be three more offense. I mean, who knows? We'll have to see how it goes.
I know you don't have a quota, but did you think there was a chance you might skew more toward that side, or was it a complete surprise?
I don't know that it's ever. I mean, there's no quota. There's nothing. I think it's just how the board falls. I don't. Never surprised by anything in the draft, and just ready to go how the board falls. So that's how it went this year.
You guys have a lot of edge rushers now. How do you work through kind of that situation? Have you thought about that at all yet?
Josh, the next time I hear somebody say we got too many edge rushers, I'll be the first time. So that's a good problem to have. And so I think, with everything, competition brings out the best of all of them. So I mean, the more the merrier there. So we're excited to put those guys all in the room and let them loose and see what we can do.
On Jordan Burch, what traits do you see on Burch?
Size, length, power, ability to collapse the pocket. He was productive in a good, he missed a couple games, got dinged up with some injuries this year, was productive in the games he played against good people. Brings a unique skill set for a guy who's his size and length to be able to play on his feet and play out on the edge of the line of scrimmage.
With all three of the guys have mentioned how much they've enjoyed interacting with the coaching staff, and maybe partly because it's a little bit younger in a lot of ways, or how you're laid back and chill, as Jordan Burch said. Like, do you like the idea?
For 2 weeks.
I was going to say, do you think that helps you guys when you're?
No, because whoever they get picked by, that's where they're going. I would say that I think it's very clear when guys come in and get to know our staff, and not just the coaching staff, the performance side, Monti's whole side, the personnel side, the new dietitian, our team psych doctors. I think there's a genuineness about our staff, the people that are here, that we truly do care about the players, and I think that is authentic. And guys can feel that a little bit, and I love how Monti sets up our top 30, because he's probably talking about the top 30 because I'm kind of a tough guy in the combine interviews. But, they really get a chance to, get to meet everybody, and we have our own kind of set of things that we do with those guys to figure out what we want to figure out with them. And it's a busy day, but it's a packed day. There's not a lot of downtime. They're kind of bouncing around all the different departments, different coaches. They're learning things. They're talking to people. They're doing the medical, all that, right? But I think that, I don't want to leave out Drew's staff too, because his Kruger and his staff do a good job with those guys too. But I think they just genuinely can feel that we care about them, and we do. That's the job.
Describe yourself as laid back and chill.
Maybe in those meetings, not on the practice field, no.
Jonathan, you mentioned that Will Johnson is a smart football player.
Yeah.
It seems like that's something you've really focused with all the cornerbacks that you've drafted.
Yeah.
Is that a position where you feel like football intelligence and IQ might be more important?
Yeah, that's a really good observation, Teo. I mean, I think, when I first got into the business, it maybe always wasn't like that to people I learned under. But as we've adapted defensively to keep up with offenses and to try to be ahead of offenses in 2025, that position, when we got into the business, looks a little bit different. And we do, in our system, not to say it's right or wrong, but in our system, they have to be able to think out there. They don't get the advantage of a caddy every play. They got to be able to open up their eyes and see formations and see splits and react to motions. And we play a lot of different structures, and they have to be intelligent, and I always say, like, there's thinking positions and there's non-thinking positions. When I was a little bit younger, I thought corner wasn't really a thinking position. I do not think that anymore. I think it is a thinking position. So I've kind of adjusted my viewpoint on that. That was one of the very appealing things talking to Will when he came in here. This guy is on it. Like I say, do you know or do you know? No, he knows. So now he's going to have to learn a whole new scheme, and it'll take him some time, but very excited to get him in and get him going.
When did you change that philosophy, and what led you to change that?
Just, as you work for different people and you see what offenses are doing and how you're adjusting and how defenses are adapting to the game, you start looking at, here's what we need to do on defense. Well, who's going to tell that guy to do that, And it's like, no, we don't have time for the safety to tell a corner to do that. Can he see that? You know what I mean? So I think it's just honestly just an adaptation, a kind of a growth mindset. You evolve with the times, you know what I mean? Like if you're not evolving with the times, you're probably getting past. And I just think that, corners are on 2 feet. They can see a full picture. Before the ball snap, they better be looking at one thing, but they need to be able to see the scope, and there's a lot of rules that go on, you know what I mean? And Nick does a really good job of keeping it tight, you know, so we're not thinking and checking everything all the time, that they can play fast, because there's a balance, right? But I think everyone that we have on our roster right now has checked that box of being able to function mentally, and Will definitely checks that box.
Speaking of Nick, I'm pretty sure he's excited about the 3 defensive picks.
I think he gave him a bigger hug than I did when he hired me. Yeah, he's excited. He's excited.
I know with any draft pick, there's always question marks and pros and cons and everything, but your first 2 guys, Nolan and Johnson, either whether it was motor or injury history, you know, there was some question marks about them. Would you think you would have made these same draft picks 2 years ago, or are you more comfortable, I guess, in your process, you know, willing to go out there on a limb and getting a guy with some questions?
Yeah, I think, you know, really we try to put a profile together of everybody that our scouts look at. And so every prospect that's available in the draft, everybody that's on our board has a different story, and different guys have different things that we got to work through. And, you know, we go through the process of that, and when we put together our board, we put a value. We place a value on the player, and that encompasses everything. It encompasses everything that goes into the person, the football player. You know, a lot of things go into that. So when we place a value on the player, it's really reflective of where we would feel comfortable taking them. And so, you know, really once the players start coming off the board and there's a player that's sticking up there and you know, and then by the time the draft day comes along, the decisions have already been made. And so, you know, all those things, a lot of things go into putting where we value the player, and then draft night's just waiting to see how that comes off.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. I said I wasn't going to tell this story, but I'm going to tell this story. So we make the pick with Will, and immediately my phone blows up with a bunch of guys on our team, right? You know, you name it. Super excited to add this guy, right? And I get a text from Walter. He says, "Send me Will's number." Like unprovoked, like awesome. You know what I mean? So I sent him the number. I said, he's honestly a little pissed, you know, where he got drafted. He's disappointed, you know. And then I said something to Walt, and he goes, "Don't worry, Coach. Well, I'll talk to him." You know what I mean? And it's like that. Like those things go unnoticed, but this was going to be a close group, a close knit team. This group will be, and they have been for 2 years, and we're going to continue to add people that add to that. Because they care about each other. But I just thought that was kind of cool, and I wasn't going to tell you guys, but it just hit my brain to tell you guys. But so the thing about Walt, you know, whatever narratives or this or that, like, I don't know if I ever had a guy do that, you know. Monty goes, I showed Monty the text. He goes, he's off to a good start, you know.
I don't have social media, but he doubled down and posted about the 2 of them being in Arizona together, just so you know.
Oh, yeah?
There we go.
I do not have social media, but that's good enough. Yeah, it's good.
Monty, going into the draft, a lot of analysts were just kind of saying it wasn't as much of a general consensus, at least kind of going into the top couple of picks of round 1 as it is typically most years. Has it been surprising in any sense through the first 2 days of maybe how the board has fallen in general or in your favor?
Honestly, Danny, it's been kind of the opposite. You know, it's been. We actually commented before we came down here that it seems like there hasn't been a ton of surprises, and so, you know, I don't know. It's some years, you know, I'm sure. Obviously, there's 32 teams, 31 other boards are different than what we have. But, you know, I mean, it's kind of amazing where everybody's kind of doing the same work, and the order's a little bit different, and some have a guy up on top. But, you know, I think all in all, there hasn't been a ton of surprises this year.
Do you enjoy that?
I enjoy every part of the draft. So you name it, I love it about the draft. And so, you know, it's a fun weekend, and this year's been no different.
Jordan's a guy who didn't fully break out until his 5th year. First of all, why do you think that was, and does that play into your evaluation process at all when a guy has a late breakout like that?
You know, I mean, Jordan, like he's certainly a product of what's going on in college football in general. He, you know, started his career at South Carolina and then moved on to Oregon, and you know, with that comes transition, and you have to adjust to a new city, a new scheme, a new team, new teammates. So a lot goes into that. And so Jordan's always been a talented player. Sometimes guys have to get in the right situation, the right scheme, the right fit. And, whatever it was that clicked for Jordan this year, it certainly shined through. So he was a fun guy to watch this year. That Oregon defense was really, really a good group to watch. Dan Lanning's done a great job with those guys out there. And so they did a great job, and Jordan certainly was a beneficiary of that, and he took advantage of his opportunities.
Did you like that fake punt that he had against Maryland?
Yeah, how about that? Maybe we can talk to Jeff Rogers and get something like that put in.